Hi, everyone. Welcome to Anatomy of Suspense. I'm Jennifer Smith. I'm a music supervisor with Rat Dance Party. We have an amazing panel together today that you're going to learn some great things creatively as well as craft-wise. That's technical. So I'm so excited for everyone to join us with this amazing panel. We're just going to jump right in and get started with the fun. All right. Our first question goes to our panelists. How do you view your role on a project, and how do you balance being creative with fulfilling the needs of your project? We all know this can be very taxing. It has a lot of levels. So I'd love to hear just from everyone, like popcorn style in, how do you view your role in a project, and how do you balance the creative while fulfilling the needs of the project? So who would like to go first? Elion, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I would love to go first. I'm a writer and an executive producer, and basically, I mean, it is from the ground up. We're building a foundation of what the story is supposed to be. So making sure that you understand what the mandate is, and when you are writing a project, making sure that it's not trying to just follow whatever's popular now. You want to be able to have a unique voice. You want to be able to create something that's new and exciting, and that's about taking risks as creatives. I think a lot of writers or even producers who are taking on projects are looking to fulfill a mandate, or they're like, oh, I hear someone's looking for XYZ. That's not our job. Our job is to create new and exciting things. As you can see from the climate now, people want original stories, and it's our job to make those. And from the producing standpoint, I always think of filmmaking and whatever medium storytelling as alchemy. We are taking all these different pieces, these different parts, working with amazing creatives to tell a phenomenal story, hopefully a phenomenal story at the end of the day. And I think people often forget what that takes, and the fact that it isn't a one person show. It's not a director's medium, it's not a producer's medium or writer's medium or a sound designer's medium or a costumer's medium. It is all of us together creating something. And yes, there are heads of department, and yes, there are creative visionaries and people with a perspective behind what we do, but it cannot be done without every single person in the process, which is why I'm sure I speak for everyone when we stand with the people who are striking, SAG striking, and the writers striking, because it takes all of us, and all of us are valuable within the process.
Amazing. Amazing. Anyone
Absolutely.
else have something to add? Michael?
As a producer and a director, I see both sides of it, the creative side and the logistical side. And I think they work both sides to help each other. Before I start a project, whether it's TV or film, let's just say it's a film, it's a script, I want to fully immerse myself into that script to understand the vision of the script, so that the director and I can speak the same language. So then we can take that language and speak it to all the other department heads, so that we are going to have to tell this story logistically and visually, and we just want everyone to be on the same page. So I balance, like, wanting to protect the integrity of the vision, but also understanding that I have to logistically make it a reality. So it's just that constant balance. But I also think it's very important to keep everyone on the same page. Constant communication. It sounds easy, but it's vital. It's very vital.
I agree. Communication as well as respect for everyone involved, whatever department you are, to if you're running something that also kind of helps, keep the project alive, hitting those deadlines, staying in budget, but also fulfilling the creative needs of someone's vision, which I think is also important. Blaine, I know you are definitely a multifaceted creative, so I'd love to hear your point of view about how you balance the creative needs of a project, but as well as like the technical budget for filling those types of things.
Yeah, I think I work a lot in like the indie world as a writer director, but I also AD a lot. I edit as well. And in the indie world, you have to produce a lot of your own things. So as well as like diving into the creative of the script, it's also kind of being realistic of what we can accomplish with the budget we have, and finding creative solutions within the boxes you have within your budgets. Like sometimes you can't do that crazy CGI, but maybe we can do something practically to kind of get there and work with the editor to make that happen, which I find really fun. I love solving problems. It's all like a big puzzle that you're trying to figure out.
Every day is a puzzle. Every day is a puzzle. Kalayson and Grant, both of you are kind of on the sonic side. So Grant, as for sound, what kind of things would you add? And then we can go to kind of score and music as well to kind of balance that as well. So Grant, what's your point of view for sure?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Michael was talking about is really key to just about everybody being on the same page. You know, I've worked on projects where maybe the director and the producers are not on the same page. And that can be really tough. And then you're trying to like serve the project itself. But I think, you know, coming from Clayson, you can maybe talk about this too. I feel like where we're at in the part of the process in kind of in post world, there's like a reason why you're brought onto a project. And I think that like bringing your own creative vision, like you have to stay true to yourself too. And I always try to push myself forward, and it's the way that I think that it tends to work for me is I'm able to do maybe a pass kind of almost for myself of like, this was my vision and this is what I envisioned and for the project. And then to be able to bring the director and producers in and kind of narrow things down and have that true collaboration, I think is really helpful.
Clayson,
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I echo all of that. Like, I think, Grant, your point to the fact that post folks like you and I are usually brought on in a very intentional way because you have something that's pretty fully formed by the time we come in. So like as a composer, I guess I think of that job as sort of like offering counterpoint, right? So like the film's gone through pre-production and production and just all these rigorous levels of making something, and the director comes with you at a certain energy level and you're coming on fresh, so you get to invigorate the project in a whole other kind of way. So often I think of the job as sort of like looking for sort of clues in either the screenplay or the film about like what's there and what isn't there, and where can I as a composer offer counterpoint. And I think often a lot of the most interesting films are where there's this kind of friction between like what the music is suggesting about what's not on screen, because I've never been a big fan of like sad music for a sad scene. If the film is already doing what it's doing really well, why put a hat on a hat? So what can the music and the score do to crack something open in the work where you get to see all the subtext and all the things that aren't directly there now start to come out in the experience? And that sort of, as the others have spoken, it's kind of the exciting alchemy of different people from different crafts coming onto the project at just different points of the process, where each of us is sort of like jump starting the project, offering a new perspective and a new energy to it. And I think that's what makes it really exciting to work on a project in the post.
No, I agree. As a fellow sonic storyteller, you know, our job is to kind of live in that environment, the story, the character. If there's sound, if there's music, what's the intention? Does it add to the story, take away? Is there an extra layer? You know, sound is, I think, an extra character that a lot of people sometimes they don't realize. It kind of creeps in there and then it goes back. And I loved what you said about, you know, kind of how score and everything. I think especially for the sake of, you know, this panel, the anatomy of suspense, Kalayson, like how do you kind of your philosophy of creating a score to facilitate tenser emotions in a project? Because I think especially with music and sound, there's the stereotypical way you can approach it, there's the non-stereotypical way you can approach it, and then there's the avant-garde way. So I'd love to hear about how your philosophy of really diving into those different emotions. You know, I'm also the same way. If it doesn't need sad music, why put sad music? It doesn't add to anything. But I feel like there's a philosophy, and I'd love to hear yours from that point of view.
Totally. And I think horror and suspense is always tricky because it's genre, right? So a lot of films are either playing tribute to the genre or they operate, you know, we see elevated horror or these sort of like mixed genre spaces. In a way, it's similar to comedy where like there are things you have to hit, and then there are opportunities to either like back off or offer something new. And then it begs the question of like, what does scary sound like? Everyone wants the film to be scary, to be suspenseful, and often they come to post and be like, let's make this scary. But what does that sound like? It's such an abstract question, right? And I think rather than trying to answer that, it just comes down to rooted in intention.
Mhm.
So if there's something, again, this is what I mean by looking for clues. If there's something in the story, in the screenplay, in your conversations with the director or the creative team, where you start to identify threads that, like, all right, point of view, character, like these are all really useful things to sort of ground an approach in. And my dream goal at the end of any film, suspense or not, is to come out with a sound that is entirely unique to that project, to that film. And what is that sonic signature? Because I want that to be a character in the film. And once you identify that character, you can sort of now play with it. Like, you know, you want it to be 100% here, you want it to be subtle here, you don't even want it to be present. Like Jaws is like the ultimate example, right?
Of
Like,
course.
once you land in on that 2-note thing, you know exactly how you can play with it, and that's where all the fun and the puzzle solving aspects of it comes in.
I agree. Sonic signatures, I think, is what makes every story unique and different. I approach the same way about what is the sonic signature. It might be a sound design element that we work in, a song, a lyric, a type of artist, a tone, a genre, or it could be something as a lack of sound. So it's always
Totally.
fun to kind of play with those things. You know, I think a lot of people get really excited about like the creative process. Like I have this project and I'm so excited and just kind of looking at it. Just, you know, anyone pop in. When you're starting a project, what is the first step in the process to get into the mindset or the tonal piece of the script or the film or the story, even if it's just an outline or an idea? What is the first step that you do kind of just to kind of get the creative ball rolling? Let's start with Michael, actually.
When I'm writing or directing, I want to be fully immersed into the tone of whatever we're working on. And music is a huge piece of that for me. I will listen to scores, all sorts of scores over and over. When I find that right score, I will listen to like the same score, the same one piece of music, whether it's 3-4 minute loop, over and over and over. So it becomes an inner soundtrack. So I'm, you know, like an actor, right? As a writer, I have to become the script and to dive into it and just to be emotionally attached to it. So I think for me, as a director, I will definitely immerse myself. I'm all in on it, basically. And I want to be thinking about the vision of it. You know, once I get that tone down, then it comes alive. The script comes alive in terms of how it's filmed, what the frames are, what kind of movement we're using, and all of that. As a producer, it's a little bit different. You know, I read the script initially if I'm working with a director, and I want to read that script and just go through it without taking any notes. I want to understand it and pay attention and understand each and every character. I will be taking quiet mental notes about locations and visual effects and all of those other things and how we're going to bring that to life. Then I will go back and really break things down. So it's both different, you know, but as a producer, I'm thinking as a director, how can we achieve this for, like, if we're doing this as an independent style film at a lower cost, you know, but how, you know, we want to get the best bang for our buck. So I think from both directions, but I think it's just immersing yourself all in, you know, jumping off a building without a parachute and figuring out how to land, basically, you know?
Awesome. Awesome. Grant, what are some of the things you do?
I think that especially coming from post, I don't necessarily like I was talking about before, the film already exists in a form at that point. And I think that just conversations are really important, especially with the director. And I really love asking clients just about like influences of like, you know, maybe give me some films to watch that you're influenced by for this project that really will help me get me into the zone. Like for the Angry Black Girl or Monster, director Bomani is a good friend of mine, and uh quite often we'll do like movie marathons in October of like watching horror movies and stuff. So we have like a really good collaborative language of stuff like, hey, do you remember when we watched that movie? And we can kind of go from there. I think like, yeah, influences are really important.
Great. Blaine, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think for especially writing for usually something I'm going to direct, I like to, if I come up with an idea, I like to blue sky it for a little bit and just like free write, maybe have a glass of wine.
Mhm.
And then when I have like more solidified the idea, I definitely make a soundtrack for it, like Michael. And then I also just love to make like lookbooks and researching as many, and in my free time I'm watching movies that are similar like it or not like it, to be like, I like this, I don't like this. And I kind of like make my lookbook even like in the outline stage so I can kind of see the world as I'm writing it, which I find really helpful.
Elion, feel like you have something to add? See,
You know, it's a little bit
smile.
of an amalgamation of everything. You know, of course, it's the music. I love doing lookbooks. My background's in marketing, so it's very much the question I always ask myself is this commercial? And not commercial in the gross sense, but in the commercial as in, look, we all want to be artists and be like, our art's amazing. And it's like, if no one watches it, then congratulations, you created something that won't affect anybody on a large scale. So it's how can you create something that reaches a lot of people? For me, getting into the tone of it, it always is with character. Character is the number one thing, which is what's the arc of the story. Most directors, most writers, most producers can't even convey that right away when you ask them. You're like, what's the movie about? And they're like, well, and they start with the premise and they don't start with what people really care about, which is these really amazing characters they're going to watch on this journey. And it starts with character. And then, of course, making sure, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was that the best directors, filmmakers, producers are animators and come from animation because they know what is necessary and what to cut out because there's so much intention behind every single thing that they do. And I think, I love independent cinema. It's still my first love. And I think people often forget, the intention behind every scene. Why is each scene important? What's the beat of the scene? Is it pushing the character forward? And they have to ask themselves these questions because, as writers, sometimes we'll write and be like, oh my God, I love this character. They're amazing. But it's like, you don't need them. They aren't doing anything to the story. They shouldn't exist. And you have to kill your darlings to make a really strong, tight, cohesive story. And so for me, it's always character. You live with them and you say, is this scene important? And so it is like jumping off the building without a parachute. You're just careening to the ground, hoping that what you make is going to catch you on the way down. But it's awesome, and it's actually the most. To me, I mean, I used to come from a production background, but like working as a above the line member, but I really love the creative process, initial stages. That's the best.
Yeah, I mean, Gleason, I'm sure you could talk about music. I know for me, just with the music intentions, people say, oh, I need music here. And I'm like, what's the intention? What does it add? What is the character? And, I know with composers I've worked with, sometimes we've had roadmaps of putting in temp music and, talking what we like and we don't. And some composers like to work with no music type of thing. They're just like going with it. So what is kind of your creative process that, if we were working together and I gave you two options, would you like us to temp this or not temp it, but just tell you the tones we're looking for? Kind of what would be your first creative process with something like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I know a lot of people find temp useful. I'd rather just start with the conversation with the director, and I'd rather do playlists. Like, let's send each other music that we like, and it might or might not be related to the film at all. But I want to know, what were you listening to while you were writing this? What do you think the characters are listening to? What do you just listen to in general? And in the same way, like I think what Michael's speaking about, total immersion, anything that achieves that is kind of what I'm after. And that might even be film references. Like, I'm down to just bump onto Criterion and just like, let's just watch these films that you've been watching, because I want to be in the same headspace. I think that's more useful than trying to temp and create a mold on a scene and being like, all right, now the temp is in 90 BPM, so write something like that for 2 minutes and just nail every beat, because then it's less fun. Then it becomes work and almost machine-like. But if we can build something together around a collection of shared references and build a shared language around it, then I think we're building something that's for the film. And that can be different for each project. Like the last film I did, we were just sending each other like field recordings from production and stuff. And I would send sounds back. And it wasn't even a musical conversation. It was just, what is the sounds of that city, of that space? And can we build something from that? So that looks different for each project, but I think it helps us get to a shared headspace rather than here's a mold, fit that mold. You could do that. It's just less fun, I think.
Blaine.
And
Oh, go ahead, Grant. Go ahead.
No, I think temp love is also very, very dangerous
Oh, so
too.
dangerous.
That
We all know
people,
that.
you know, yeah, people just get attached to things. And
I
sorry.
like to bring in the composers before we even shoot sometimes, and just like when
Totally.
you read the script, what themes and sounds were you already just getting intrinsically, and then I kind of like carry that with me to set sometimes, and that'll of course change, but it just already creates a vibe for you before you head in.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
that's such a great way because you already are now entering the world together, right?
Yeah.
I've been privileged to have that in some chances too, where like you're sent a screenplay, I'm like, hey, make something, I want to take it to set. And that's always such a cool way to bring everyone on the same page.
As
yeah, I
opposed to
know.
everybody having like Philip Glass as every temp track, you
Oh.
know. Oh, it has to be
Oh
just
my
like
goodness gracious.
It's always funny when you watch like these HBO TV shows and you're like, I know exactly where that temp is. And if it's not Philip Glass, it's
Yeah.
Max Richter, or if it's like,
yeah. I mean, Max Richter's amazing though. We must all admit, yeah,
Yeah.
he's great.
That goes back to Leon's comment about, in the beginning about not, being a stamp on different things, finding that creative flow. I know for me, when I talk to a director, or producer, I read a script, is when I watch a cut or I read a script, I hear sounds, music, characters. We get into like, okay, you wrote this character, their dad's from New Jersey. What was he listening to? Like we go into these crazy philosophical conversations for me to understand the sound and the characters, type of thing. And then if you're looking at what type of composer to bring in, we kind of talk about those things, and this could work, this could not work, and why. So it's such a collaborative process. I know, Blaine, for you, you're an actress, you're a director, you're a writer, and there's just so many hats with that. I think a lot of people that are major hyphenates like that, how do you strike a balance between these roles? Because you have to wear these hats, but they also kind of build on each other for a creative process. So do you feel the creative process helps, or sometimes does it hinder you because you have all these different hats and you have to think about different things?
It's having a really well organized calendar. And definitely to-do lists, and like making sure I know it's prioritized, which helps because I'm a Virgo. But yeah, I was an actor first and foremost, and a dancer, and I was in musical theater. So like I kind of grew up with actor language, and was going through all these classes, had kind of a regimen in mind. So that kind of carried through. And then becoming a writer, director, producer came out of necessity because I was just like not getting auditions for roles I wanted. It was all like ghetto Latinas about 5-10 years ago. So I was like, I need to start making my own things. And then from there, I just really like loved having control over my own life and being able to say what I wanted. And it was just felt a lot more empowering. And like I do still have my acting managers now, and I'm still auditioning, but it's more like I don't have to wait for them to email me for me to be creative and make other things. And I think acting informs directing. I'm able to talk to actors so much better than a lot of my friends who haven't gone to acting classes before. There's just so many more tools in my kit to use as a director. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, we all know that success for any film is prep, right? It's about being organized from the beginning. You want success in post. That means in pre-production, you got to think about these things, which I think a lot of people don't. So I am, this person obviously does. I mean, Michael, as a producer, when, I think a lot of people don't know the role that you play in pre-production. Can you kind of explain that? And then do you have any little tricks of the trade for pre-production that you're like, oh, this has been so wonderful to kind of pivot this way, especially in their current landscape of entertainment, how it's constantly changing?
I would say my role as a producer in pre-production is, again, I talked about immersing myself. That's exactly what I do. I will immerse myself into the script to understand what the goal is. The script is the foundation for it's the blueprint for what we're about to embark on. My role is to make that into a reality. So I want to understand that reality very clearly so I can work with the director on that. But my initial approach is to be completely proactive. I do not wait for my phone to ring. I do not wait for the email. I feel like I'm a detective, constantly searching for crimes that are about to be committed, and I put those fires out beforehand, so to speak. I think being proactive will save you so much heartache down the road. It's just, I can't even tell you. And I also think communicating to every department head, and everyone on the crew, so to speak, it doesn't matter to me. I think from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, you have to communicate with everyone. Just everyone speaking the same language, immerse yourself into the script, being proactive, and just, I think, listen, what we do can be very chaotic.
Oh, yeah.
My goal is to make it as smooth as possible. I want to create an environment that is conducive to creativity. So when I'm producing, I'm thinking, let's create as smooth as possible. So when the actors get on the set, when the director is working with the director of photography and the production, there's not this chaos. Everyone is allowed to do their job and elevate what they're doing and bring the script to reality, while I'm in the background, in the shadows, so to speak, quietly getting things done. I think it's really important. I mean, that's the tricks of the trade. Are you're going to learn something no matter how long you've been in the business, and you have to be open to other people's ideas and how things are done. It's not just the way I do things. It's, let's communicate, let's figure out because every project is different, every film is different, every show is different. We have to formulate a plan that is unique to what we're about to embark on. And I think that's really important, and it allows other people to shine. And I think you mentioned the respect before.
Yes.
I think it's incredibly important to show everyone on the set the proper dignity and respect that they deserve. We are all the same. To me, executive producer, star, director of photography, intern, PA, doesn't matter. We are all equal. We're all on the same page. We're all trying to make this project a reality, and everyone is just as equally as important as the other. I mean, I think that's very important.
Well said. As again, success is about collaboration from the beginning. Things always pop up, but I always think it's exciting on every project, the different teams. You always learn and you grow. The day you work on something, you don't learn and grow and have to expand your mind and your creativity, is the day you need to stop working in entertainment. That's how I feel. I have not hit that day. None of us here have, because it's an amazing group of people here. I think, this goes to everyone. Suspense and thriller projects are just, they're so different. They're all unique. They're all different. They all have different layers. Some of them are social commentary. Some of them are, pure entertainment. What do you think makes a successful collaboration on a thriller or suspense project? You can pick any type of genre, any type of story, any type of thing to answer this question. What is kind of your idea of what makes a successful collaboration within this genre that I think is also very important? Go ahead, jump in.
I think what Michael was talking about with trust is really important. I think that, like, I guess, like I was talking about before, like every person on a film is like hired for a reason, and to be able to have that kind of collaborative atmosphere, you really need to, in this business, egos can get involved, and it can be very tough. But I think that, like, serving the project for itself is very important, and like thinking about the audience, trying to like craft a thrilling story, and like having that in mind, and not trying to be like, well, I want my work to shine here, or because sometimes, like, with sound and music, it's this very like delicate dance. And I think in the mix, a lot of that stuff can come out where sometimes it's like, okay, here, this scene would be better served with, like, let's just like hear it with just music, or otherwise. I think on our film, Angry Black Rhino Monster, there were like several scenes that the director Romani is like, let's just take out the music. And I think it was great for our composer Nima and our like music editor Scott, where they were just like, great, that sounds cool, let's do it. And it wasn't like I have to get my work in here because I really like that piece I composed, or if I'm like, oh, I really loved that sound that I did there. It's like, it really should be about serving the story.
I agree. It's about keeping the vision intact and serving the overall vision, and putting your ego aside, because it's not about you, it's about the team creating a vision. Does anyone else kind of have words of wisdom about what makes a successful collaboration on a thriller or suspense project. Again, if you have a project that you're thinking specifically of a story you worked on, that's great. And it could be any type of genre and thriller and suspense, because we know there's so many layers of them.
To me, it's about
Yeah.
keeping engagement. Oh, go ahead.
No,
No.
go ahead.
It's about keeping engaging. One of the number one rule: don't be boring. You know, it's about keeping the audience engaged, and it's how are you doing that? So for me, and this applies to every project. So a lot of multi-hyphenates here. I have a documentary series with Sugar 23 and Sony Pictures Television, right? That how do you keep people engaged in this mystery as it slowly unravels episodically? You have to think always about the viewer's experience. And then, of course, the story and how they digest that story to make sure that they want to see what happens next. Like the whole part of, for me, thrillers is anticipation. It's that dread. You want to unravel the mystery. I think Seven is a prime example of a movie where you're on the tracks of that story so clearly that you're constantly wondering what's next, but yet you have an idea of what's to come. And so it's a beautiful balance within the script writing, or when it's adapting novels. So I'm adapting 2 YA novels into series, and it's taking the existing source material that you have and also trying to stand on the shoulders of that source material, where you can take the kind of more thrilling elements, because in a novel the pace is so much slower that you have to be able to find out how to make things that not necessarily wouldn't be so interesting and create them to be really exciting. So one of the best, there's so much advice that I've had amazing mentors, and I think mentorship is super important in our industry. But one of the things is, like, when you're introducing a character, write down 30 ideas and then one more. And it's that 31st idea that'll often be so unexpected, that'll make your audience absolutely immediately engaged. I think also because of streaming, unfortunately, that's become one of those things where statistically people watch the first 4 minutes before they decide to continue to watch something. I love theatrical personally, because it's like the theater, live theater, right, where you're locked in a room and you bought the ticket, you have no choice but to stay. But I think these days with streaming and how people watch content, which I hate that word so much with a passion, you have to make sure that you're engaging. And I know that's not specifically just for thriller, but especially for thriller stories, because because it's so genre centric, people have a lot of expectations for what they're going to see.
Agree. Yeah, I agree. I think that it's just let's face it, we've seen it all. How are you going to be original, right? Like, it's a tough task. It's challenging. How do you engage the audience? I think it's always recognizing those cliches, throwing them away. And at the end of the day, sticking to story. It doesn't matter what genre it is. It has to be a compelling story, and every word and every sentence and every paragraph in the script has to move the story forward and create that tension and that suspense. And I think that's really important. I think creating a story world also, no matter what it is, you could be making a drama. There's still a world within that drama lives in. And I think it's important to create and bringing your audience into that world so that your story can take them for the ride. And I think that's why a lot of the, all those Pixar movies are so successful. I mean, I've been a big fan since day one, because they always emphasize story. So story's a big key.
Great. Elian, you did bring this up already, but can you kind of talk about the process of what it's like adapting a novel to screen for some of your upcoming projects? You did mention that, and I know a lot of people we see in the press and Deadline and Variety about all these different adaptations, and I think people don't realize it's a marathon process. It's not just a push of a button. So I'd love to just kind of hear, demystify to our audience listening and watching kind of this marathon.
Thank you so much for putting it in those terms, because it is it's an IP rush. I think the thing that is easy for buyers and for production companies is the less work that you make them do, the happier they will be. So it's, if they can read a novel and they can go, wow, this is a novel, it has an existing audience, I can see it very clearly, the characters are well fleshed out, I can see it from beginning to end. It's very easily digestible. I was talking to some development executives before the strike, and they love comic books. Like, we have a comic book that was released recently. We were at Comic-Con on a panel talking about it. It's called Mark of Death. And when we sent it out, producers loved it because they said, oh, I see the story from beginning to end. You pair that with a deck like Blaine's talking about, and you already have a fully realized, purchasable, digestible concept. But it does take time, and it's about picking the right source material, because just because it exists doesn't mean that it's right. And you have to tap into not necessarily the moment, but the meaning and the heart behind it. So I have two stories, two YA novels that we're adapting. One is Surrender Your Sons by Adam Sass, which we are in the process of selling right before the strike. But it's a limited series, right? And it fit for a reason, to only tell this very concise story within 8 episodes. But then when you're looking at another YA novel, it's called Someone Is Always Watching by New York Times bestselling author Kelly Armstrong. Her book is like a multi-season series. Like, there's so much world in there and character, and you can take this book that is a standalone book, but you can expand it into 5-6 seasons like very easily, because the concept is so rich and the characters are so dense. So the process really is finding the right source material first, and then finding the team who can stand behind it. For people who are new in the process of, locating IP, optioning rights, and then building a team around it, a lot of times they succumb to the pressure of, oh, there's like this producer interested and this producer interested. And so you start attaching people without thinking what that means. And when you start just bringing a bunch of people and forming a package, you're actually hindering your progress, because sometimes you come up with 12 producers, and it's like, look at all these producers I have who are interested and attached, and that's not what people want to see. They want a clean project that doesn't have a bunch of people on it, so that when you meet with somebody, you can collaborate with them and talk to them about this idea and how you want to adapt it, and meet somebody at their vision, because it is a very collaborative art form. The other thing is that when you're exploring IP and exploring different things to adapt, is, can you pitch it effectively? Just because it exists as something doesn't mean that it is easy for someone to process and understand, who may not be interested in the same types of genres and things that you are. But no, I think I love it so much. I mean, I love original material, writing and directing original material, but I think there's nothing greater than taking somebody else's world and trying to just bring it to the masses. So I'm a huge fan, and I recommend anybody go down that road. But make sure that you're also doing it for yourself, because sometimes authors will want a heavy hand in the process, but also some authors want to give it to you and say, make this into something else, elevate this material and explore it in a different way. So it's an awesome experience. I love it. So adaptation I'm a huge fan.
Amazing. Grant, you kind of mentioned this earlier about your collaboration, especially for The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster with the director on Bomani. But, you talked about watching films together, which I think is really great to kind of have like a palette. Again, no matter what craft you are, it's so collaborative on many different levels. But are there other ways that you collaborate with this director, not just watching movies, but is there like a sonic way, or maybe there's other ways you collaborate? Because even if you do one type of craft, you can collaborate in a different way that's not maybe your craft.
Sure. Interesting. I have to think about that one. I think like just sitting down and like picking things over is really important. I think like even just like, I think spotting sessions are very important. That's like a key element of just like going in and having a plan, and saying, this is what we kind of want to do in this scene. These are the important parts. This is the emotion that we want to convey. I do have several people were talking about that like playlist idea of like doing music back and forth. I've definitely done that, and that really helps me get into a headspace too. Yeah, I think just like I really treasure my relationships with my clients and collaborators, and I think of just like being on the same page as people too, is really important, and having that respect and trust, and yeah, it's like it's always difficult to work with people that you don't like, sometimes you can put that aside, but like yeah, really treasure, and a lot of my friends are people that I've like worked with, whether I was friends with them before and then came to work with them, or just forging, working on a film is like it's a gauntlet, and you really, especially if you're on like a mix stage or you're on set or something, it can feel, there are people where I'm like, I feel like I've known you for years, and I've known you for like 2 months, like working on a film together. And yeah, I just think like it's important to pick the right people to work with, and those early meetings are important, and just being on the same page.
Being a human, no big deal. Just be human with
Right.
each other. I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
don't
that's
forget at the end of the day, we're just all humans, and be a human.
yeah.
Respect each other and collaborate. And oh my gosh, I feel like we could just keep this panel going over and over, but unfortunately we're going to have to wrap up soon. But I definitely want to hear, I know we all sign NDAs left and right, every single thing. So if you can't say something, that's totally fine. Are there any upcoming projects that you're able to tell us that you're excited? Or maybe there's, if you're like, oh, I've signed so many NDAs on things, maybe just with a piece of wisdom to leave everyone, or a little antidote, maybe if you're like, oh, I've signed too many NDAs, I got nothing. So let's just start. Who would like to go first? Jump on in. I see Blaine smiling. Blaine.
There you go.
Yeah, I have my horror short, The Saguapa, that I wrote and directed, that was just at Outfest.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's going to be at New Filmmakers LA for Latinx Heritage Month, which I'm very excited about in September. And then I also have my psychological thriller feature that I wrote, produced, and star in, that'll be coming out in the UK August 28th, and we're finalizing our US distribution date as well.
Amazing.
Called Dark Obsession. Yes.
Dark Obsession. I can't wait to check it out in the US.
Well, I'm happy to say that I just currently wrote, produced, and directed a film, a drama thriller before the strike. So it's in the can, and I'm currently in post-production on it. I'm really excited about it. It's been some journey in a short time, and I'm looking forward. It's funny, we were talking about all sound design and things like that, and I'm particularly looking forward to working on the sound and editing and things like that. As one of my favorite sound mixers of all time once said to me, he's like, just remember, sound is 50% of what we do.
It is.
But the film is a drama thriller. It focuses on the eroding emotional health of a couple. I think emotional health and mental and emotional health and well-being is a subject that should be talked more about. That's what the film focuses on, and I'm excited to bring that into the arena. A film that I produced called Follow Her is now on all the streaming format. I mean, the like Apple TV and all the video on demand stuff. So I'm excited about that. We just ran a film festival circuit about that. But just a parting word of wisdom is that meet people. For all those young filmmakers out there, you have to meet everyone. You want to be a director? Well, good. Then you should go learn how to be an editor then, because that's how you're going to learn how to be a director, and you'll meet the sound people, and you'll meet the boom operator, and you'll meet the production designer, and it just, what? I always go by the someone that I studied when I was in college was Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was the ultimate filmmaker. It was before, during silent times, he was the director, he was the producer, he was the writer, he edited, and I think he also scored the films while he also acted in it. So I feel like that to understand any role, put yourself in that role, especially like a director, maybe get in front of the camera, right? So you can understand how to direct an actor when you become an actor, that sort of thing. So I think meeting people and understanding all the roles in this huge gauntlet, as Graham said, I think is very important. Very important. Get involved.
Grant, since your name is mentioned.
Yes, I have a new film, Angry Black Criminal Monster, should be coming to streaming on Shudder and All Black, I think sometime in August. I just worked on the new season of the Harley Quinn animated series, which is coming to Max on July 27th, I believe. I did 3 episodes of that. I have a couple of short films making the festival circuit, a couple for us local LA folks, a couple playing in the same block actually at the Holly Shorts in August. Those are Astonishing Little Feet and Order for Pickup are both of those films.
Great.
That's what I got
Great.
going on.
Congratulations. Clayson?
Yeah, I have a new film, a horror drama called In Flames that premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, and it will be premiering North American premiere at TIFF, which I'm excited about. There's a drama film called This Place that's going into distribution in the fall. And then a TV series I'm working on but can't talk about. So there's that.
The NDA. I knew an NDA would pop up. It
And
always
there you
does.
go. Yeah. And then solo music stuff that's coming up, my own album and some concert work. So it's looking like an exciting year. But yeah, echoing Michael, like I think just be super open and immerse yourself in as many rooms as you can, even outside of film, because I think all that stuff informs what you do. There's a lot of cool stuff being made. Just soak yourself in it when you can.
Elion, wrap us up.
I'll wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
For me, it's a few projects. I got Fix My Kid, which is the documentary series, which is about an abusive rehabilitation program that was a cult that ran for 20 years throughout the United States, that was promoted by Princess Diana and Nancy Reagan and George Bush Sr., where a bunch of kids were tortured and murdered. It was a very horrific place that I'm very eager for people to learn the truth about. And then novel adaptations, as I mentioned, Surrender Your Sons. We are working on an animated series called Qatari and the Last Gods, which is a retelling of the Spanish colonization of the Andean Plateau, as told through the indigenous lore and culture that, stories that have not been heard here in the United States or much of the world. So we've been working with those indigenous cultures to translate their stories into a visual format so that people can see a part of the history that they've never been exposed to. And yeah, a piece of advice. Oh, there's so much advice to give. I don't even know where to begin. I think the number one most important thing is don't rush it. Everybody is so in a rush to get their stuff done that they're like, you know what, let's just make it for $5,000, or let's just get a camera. I get that. I love that passion. I absolutely do. But you sacrifice your vision and you sacrifice letting other people see who you really are. You're only giving them a half of a half of a half of what makes you special. And I temper that with, if you want to go make it for sure. But also if you can wait and if you can make the right contacts, you can make the right connections, make it the right way. Make it the right way where you can engage with these amazing composers and sound designers and producers and directors and actresses that you want to work with. Because yeah, shooting it with your neighbor as the star who is an actor is probably not the best way to go. So take your time and make something of quality and put your voice out there.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you everyone for your time. This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you, Impact 24. Thank you, everyone. And I can't wait to see all of your projects that are not only coming out, things that were not allowed to be talked about, but also I can't wait to see where this career is. And I will say one piece of advice is the industry, it is a marathon, not a sprint. And as you know, with everything going on in the industry, do you want to be part of the new wave where we change systematic problem, or do you want to be part of the old wave? And that for you as a creator, a producer, a director, a writer, you can help create change in this industry that has needed change since, for the past 20 something years. So stay true to your art, be a human, respect collaboration. And thank you again to everyone for being here. This was absolutely amazing. Thank you.